Senior manufacturing, if you're going for a mass fortress, definitely amazing. But also senior attack, if you're fighting fortresses and you need to do more damage, probably not a bad idea either. My opponent instead chooses the no matter how much health you have, this is going to kill you option. He goes for melting points. The carry arclights, I think he abandoned them. However, I'm sitting on mass fortress and I'm not a non-fan of mass fortress, so, you know, just going for it. This fortress is already level 4. It's starting to push 235,000 health successfully, with, of course, the first level of defense enhancement. My opponent goes for a range on the melting points. I do put some phoenixes here, some fangs here. I did put them here last round already to pull his units. These phoenixes, I think, are beyond the point where they can be easily countered. They are at level 4 and level 3, and they are not messing around. I think at this point, my own position to go for carry arclights is better than my opponent's. Although, if I remember correctly, that's not what I end up doing. His fangs doing amazing work. Kinda vulnerable to these missiles here because they tend to take out a bunch of crawlers that are just pushing in from behind as well. However, I should be successfully defending this flank and killing some level 2 typhoons with a level 1 fortress. So that is a decent amount of XP. The fortress here has gone down. This level 4 fortress is being molten into little bits. The melter almost did go down. The phoenixes are doing good amounts of damage, but it's not enough. The last of my opponent's phoenixes has gone down. But also, I only have one additional phoenix here. I do have another fortress, and I'm getting the tower degradation. Is that enough to win it? I think that's going to be enough to win it. Yeah, that fortress is going to finish the job, hopefully. Pretty close. I think 2 or 3 additional seconds waiting time on the clock here, and or on the health of the melter, I guess, and the fortress would have not been able to kill it. The melter just would have dealt exceedingly insane damage. Sabertooth and Hacker coming out. My opponent picks the Hacker, probably intending on hacking these level 4 potentially fortresses. I'm not that sure if I want to play with Mass Fortress anymore here. My opponent is starting to go into more and more melters, it would seem. And then it's kind of all about winning the chaff war. The Hacker isn't exactly helping with the chaff war. I sold my my reinforcement unit. These phoenixes can level again. I'm finally getting some crawlers, probably to bait these storm crawlers. Yeah, looks like that. My opponent is sitting on 4 melters and counting. He's kind of playing a Typhoon melter with some failed carry arclights in the rear. At least that's the impression I'm getting. I could level these fortresses. I could even intensive training this to level 5. I do end up deciding to pick up some Mustangs. Give them range and splash high explosive ammo. Because that should be doing pretty nicely into a bunch of stuff here. Namely these fangs. I don't want to rely on these arclights forever. They are not exactly the best units here on the board. The opponent does once again missile here. He also has a missile guarding this. This Hacker is probably going to be the important part to watch out for, but he does also have a second Hacker. I did not yet have the opportunity, I think, to sell these wasps. They are just getting absolutely shredded, but at the same time, these Mustangs aren't doing badly with the shredding either. The Arclights and the Mustangs should be decent enough to defend against just about anything. My fortress here got hacked, but taken out by the other fortress. The Hacker went down before it could hack this fortress, and the melting points have also perished. So I win a side and my opponent wins a side. He gets the tower debuff first, but I will get it second, and I think it's always best if you get it second, assuming there's no big fight already going on, because then you might just lose before you get it. My own fortress is shooting anti-air missiles, but it's not enough. Opponent goes down to exactly 1400 health. Absorption module, super heavy armor. And at this point, when I have a board like that, I kinda can't stop and need to go for the meme build. Fortress level 4 with super heavy armor. Almost 650,000 health. I think this is some player's wet dream, I feel like. Phoenixes got elite marksman. I think this is better than just range. Simply because they also get a ton of extra damage. This pack of Phoenixes is already up to over 33... Okay, make that over 44,000 damage. Almost up to 45. I think if I hit this button, they are going to be not that far away from doing 50,000 damage per shot. That is devastating. I do go for shields. What else do I end up doing? I think I drop some additional Mustangs here for this side. I need to be very good at countering the chaff, because if my opponent wins the chaff war, I'm going to be in a very bad spot with these hackers, especially now that also fire has come out. Alright. So the level, I think, did go into these Mustangs. They are level 4 already, which means I think they are proper carry Mustangs at this point. EMP does clip the shield here, and probably will get a lot of units on this side. Opponent once again missiles. With Marksman Specialist, I don't think you really want to throw out constant missiles, honestly. I think that's a bit of a mistake. Stormcaller fire lands, but isn't all that terrifying. Well, I guess it still is worth it. These wasps, I still haven't sold them off. I really should have done that, I think. I could also have done that, I think. Fortress in the middle gets turned around and turns around to hit the tower, but that tower is level 2. I think there was still a leftover from the earlier stages of the game, but I'm not too sure. This fortress is just tanking melting points here. Look at the amount of punishment it can take from this level 1 melting point. We should mention that it's level 1. And even so, it manages to take that thing down. The Phoenixes are doing very good damage, but it's just 2 Phoenixes. And my opponent is taking a round with a significant amount of forces. Health is looking very low at this point. A lot of marksmen come out, so if my opponent wants to counter the Phoenixes with that, he absolutely can. They have the level to do it. Vulcans, Fire Badgers, even the Rhinos, but I don't really think you can make a Rhino push through either of these armies here. Don't really think that is viable, but I could also be wrong. Vulcans, is there enough chaff clear? Not really. Chaff to justify it? Not really. But there is a bunch of vulnerable stuff here. Like these Stormcallers so far forward. Definitely worth thinking about getting fire on them. And with the positioning here and here, that actually should happen. Now I do decide that even though it's fun, I need to sell this fortress, and instead the plan is Warfactory. If I can deny my opponent from using the fire effectively, I can keep these Mustangs alive, and they alone should be able to carry just about everything. My opponent ranks the Typhoon here, the Typhoon Squadron, and gives them shields, which has recently been nerfed, I think, to only be 10,000. I think it used to be 12,000 per unit. Warfactories get positioned on the side, because I don't want them to be in the front and get molten into bits. Temporary upgrades and loaning on both sides. My opponent throws down another shield here manually. I guess he just has the money to do that and doesn't really know what else to do with it. I do have fortress shields, so I don't really think there's much of a need to shield in addition to that. Unless it's like Acid Blast or something like that. This flank being cleaned up pretty well. Vulcans kinda stuck on fire, but they did get some fire out. One Vulcan here down. The other Vulcan not going to survive for much longer. It's even getting hacked, but instantly annihilated. So these Warfactories, I did go for a missile interceptor, but I also went for range. Because there was a point, I think it was pretty far in the past at this point, that I watched a video of somebody who was basically countering melting points with range Warfactory. These are range melting points. They have superior range to the Warfactory, but not by much. 5 units. under a tower debuff, it is enough. And my Warfactories do take the round, but is it enough damage? It is. And that means, I don't know how much you noticed. I definitely can imagine that you notice a lot, but whenever I was actually, awake enough still to listen to my words, I found my words making sense, which is pretty impressive at this stage because I am really tired and I think I was forgetting sometimes what I was saying mid-sentence. I definitely don't have any memory of what I was saying like 3 seconds ago or something like that. But I did get through this cast, and I'm probably going to listen to it just to make sure I'm not babbling complete nonsense. I think this was a really amazing game. For the sole reason. Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. I noticed it in game, but I didn't notice it at the end. I'm starting to slur my words pretty badly as well. My opponent just uses 600 supply to defend against potential flanks. I guess maybe that in his mind was one of the ways that I could have won with a bunch of good flanking, but really? I think that is a mistake. If that Warfactory gets hacked, takes out the tower, that could have easily been over. And these fire badgers in the front line might just have done enough to make it happen, honestly. So I think that is a big mistake. Maybe he was thinking that I could also go for fang production. I'm really at a loss, more or less, why my opponent was doing this. Sometimes I get the feeling that I'm only winning because my opponents are throwing. But I guess the same can be said when I am losing, that I kind of threw the game and did bad decisions. So it kind of, like at this stage, and I guess in all stages, it's often about who gets a bit more lucky and who makes fewer mistakes. Because at the end of the day, I guess we're all human and we will inevitably do a lot of mistakes. But yeah, enough of that rambling. I was very happy that I did manage to counter melting points with Warfactory. And I think if my opponent had gone for EMP misses, this would have been so over as well. But he didn't. So it was over for him, and I managed to win, which I'm very happy about. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And hopefully until next time.